Hello, and thanks for joining us in this episode. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and foundational topic in economics, welfare economics. It's a field that really sits at the intersection of economics and ethics, looking at how economic policies impact the well-being of individuals and society as a whole.
Absolutely, Liam. Welfare economics isn't just about numbers or markets. It's about making judgments on what's good or desirable for society. It's normative, meaning it involves ethical considerations, not just positive analysis.
Right, and it all really started with Arthur Pigou, who's often called the father of welfare economics. He linked welfare to economic measures like money and national income, which was a big step in trying to quantify well-being in economic terms.
Yeah, Pigou's approach was to focus on economic welfare as a part of social welfare that could be measured, directly or indirectly, by money. But welfare economics goes beyond that. It evaluates entire economic systems and policies based on their impact on social welfare, balancing efficiency and equity.
Exactly. And to put it in perspective, scholars like Lang and Baumol have emphasized that welfare economics sets the norms for how resources should be allocated and distributed optimally in society. It's about social rationality in economic activity.
So with that foundation, it makes sense to look at the main criteria economists have used to assess social welfare over time. There are 4 big ones we should cover: the GNP growth criterion, the cardinalist criterion, Bentham's utilitarian approach, and Pareto optimality.
Starting with the GNP growth criterion, which goes back to Adam Smith. The idea here is pretty straightforward. Social welfare increases as national income grows. More goods and services mean more welfare.
But that's a bit simplistic, isn't it? It ignores how income is distributed. If growth only benefits a small elite, overall welfare might not improve much.
Exactly. It assumes the status quo of income distribution is just fine, which is a big limitation. Then we have the cardinalist criterion, developed by marginalists like Edgeworth and Pigou. This one is based on the law of diminishing marginal utility of income.
Right, the idea that an extra dollar is worth more to a poorer person than to a richer one. So welfare is maximized when income is equally distributed, because equalizing income raises total utility.
That's the theory, but it assumes everyone has the same utility function for money, which is a strong assumption. People differ in how they value money, and equalizing income might reduce incentives to work, potentially lowering total output.
Then there's Bentham's criterion, which is utilitarian. It says welfare improves when the greatest good is secured for the greatest number. So total utility is just the sum of individual utilities.
But that raises fairness issues, right? Because it allows for some people to be worse off as long as the total utility increases. It can justify sacrificing the well-being of a few for the majority.
Exactly, and that's a big ethical concern. Finally, Pareto optimality is a stricter efficiency criterion. A change is an improvement only if it makes at least one person better off, without making anyone worse off.
Pareto is elegant but often too strict for real-world decisions, where trade-offs are inevitable. It also ignores distributional concerns entirely.
Speaking of Pareto, maybe we should unpack it a bit more. It's based on some key assumptions: 2 consumers, 2 goods, 2 factors of production, perfect competition, full employment, and independent preferences.
Yes, and under these assumptions, Pareto optimality involves 3 types of efficiency. First, consumption efficiency, where the marginal rates of substitution between goods are equal across consumers.
Then production efficiency, where the marginal rates of technical substitution between inputs are equal across firms.
And finally, allocation efficiency, where the mix of goods produced matches consumer preferences, meaning the marginal rate of product transformation equals the marginal rate of substitution.
The Edgeworth box and contract curve are great tools to visualize this. Every point on the contract curve is Pareto efficient. No one can be made better off without making someone else worse off.
But as you said earlier, the strictness of Pareto optimality is a limitation. It doesn't help when some people must be made worse off for overall gains, which is common in policy decisions.
That's where the Kaldor-Hicks compensation principle comes in. It relaxes Pareto's strictness by allowing changes that make some worse off if the gainers could compensate the losers and still be better off.
Right, the compensation test compares how much the gainers would be willing to pay for the change versus how much the losers would pay to prevent it. If gainers, willingness to pay exceeds losers, willingness to accept compensation, the change is an improvement.
This allows for more practical policy evaluations, but it assumes actual compensation happens, which often doesn't. Plus, it assumes equal marginal utility of money, which is unrealistic.
And it can justify ethically questionable trade-offs, like sacrificing the well-being of a few for larger aggregate gains.
Then Tibor Shatovsky pointed out a paradox with this approach. He showed that under Kaldor-Hicks, a situation A can be an improvement over B, and simultaneously B can be an improvement over A.
That's wild. It means the welfare ranking can be inconsistent, which undermines the reliability of the criterion.
To address this, Shatovsky proposed a double criterion. A change is an improvement only if gainers can persuade losers to accept it, and losers cannot persuade gainers to revert to the original situation.
So it adds a kind of reversibility or consistency test to the compensation principle.
Exactly, but it also highlights the complexity and limitations of compensation-based welfare criteria.
Moving on, Abram Bergson formalized welfare economics through the social welfare function, or SWF. It aggregates individual utilities into a social ranking, much like an individual utility function but for society.
The SWF incorporates explicit value judgments about distribution and equity, which is crucial because welfare economics can't avoid ethical considerations.
It has properties like individualistic utility, social indifference curves, and respects Pareto optimality. But it's hard to specify the exact value judgments needed to construct it.
And Amartya Sen criticized it, arguing that utility alone isn't a true indicator of welfare, which is a valid point.
Then, when we talk about maximizing social welfare, the Grand Utility Possibility Frontier, or GUPF, comes into play. It's the envelope of all utility possibility frontiers at Pareto Optima.
Social welfare maximization happens at the tangency point between the GUPF and the highest social welfare indifference curve, called the point of bliss.
This point balances efficiency and equity, combining Pareto optimality with value judgments.
The Edgeworth box and utility space help visualize this. It's where the maximum social welfare attainable is achieved.
Formally, welfare maximization requires equality of marginal rates of substitution and transformation, ensuring optimal consumption and production.
Now, perfect competition is often said to lead to Pareto-efficient outcomes. Firms maximize profits where MRTS equals factor price ratio, and consumers maximize utility where MRS equals price ratio.
Prices coordinate production and consumption to achieve the social optimum. But interestingly, welfare maximization is fundamentally a technocratic outcome based on technology and preferences, not prices alone.
So perfect competition can replicate the social optimum, but it's not the only path to welfare maximization.
That brings us to the theory of the second best by Lipsey and Lancaster. It says if one optimality condition can't be met, the next best solution may require deviating from other optimal conditions.
Meaning, partial fixes might not improve welfare and could even make things worse.
Exactly. Using the production possibility frontier and constraint lines, the first best solution is Pareto optimal. But if that's unattainable, the second best solution is the best feasible alternative.
This has practical implications because real-world markets are imperfect, so achieving first best is often impossible.
But the theory has criticisms. Markets are incomplete, technologies may be non-convex, redistribution is challenging, and individual abilities affect relative prices.
Now, Arrow's impossibility theorem is a real eye-opener. It shows that it's impossible to construct a social welfare function that aggregates individual preferences into a consistent social ordering while satisfying 5 reasonable axioms.
Those axioms are rationality, universality, no dictatorship, Pareto unanimity, and independence of irrelevant alternatives.
The voting paradox example illustrates this. Well, majority preferences can cycle without a clear winner, making consistent social choice impossible.
The implication is profound. No perfect democratic decision-making rule exists that satisfies all fairness criteria.
Though it's worth noting the theorem has criticisms. It's not directly about welfare functions. Interpersonal utility comparisons remain challenging, and real voting systems are more complex.
Finally, Rawls' theory of social justice offers a different perspective. Based on the original position and veil of ignorance, it focuses on maximizing the welfare of the worst off, the Maximin principle.
Unlike utilitarianism, Rawls prioritizes equity over total utility. The utility table example shows how maximizing the minimum utility leads to different policy choices.
His three principles, equal liberty, fair equality of opportunity, and the difference principle, allow inequalities only if they benefit the least advantaged.
But Rawls' theory faces critiques, like the difficulty of identifying the least advantaged and its strong egalitarian bias.
So to wrap up, welfare economics is a rich field balancing efficiency and equity, with various criteria reflecting different ethical priorities and practical challenges.
And it reminds us that economic analysis is never value-free. Underlying assumptions and judgments shape policy recommendations.
Exactly. It's a fascinating interplay of economics, ethics, and social choice.
Thanks for joining us in this deep dive. We hope it gave you some food for thought on the complexities of welfare economics.
Until next time, take care.